Centaur was about to load grain up at Millwall on the Thames, and she was requisitioned and towed down to Ramsgate and then into Dover. She was laying alongside the dockside with another barge called the James Piper alongside her, and they started to load her with carboys of water, because there were 200,000 troops on the beach at Dunkirk, and no food, no water. Getting water to the troops was important. They were just getting the hatch covers off, ready to load the water, and a Admiralty tug was going quite fast across Dover Harbour, was heading straight for the James Piper. There was great consternation on board because they all thought she should be slowing down, and the experienced skippers were saying, that's all right, she can slow down, but she didn't. She hit the James Piper fair and square midships, smashed a rail in, and that squashed Centaur against the dockside. Centaur's chine keelson had been sprung in the collision. That's the chine keelson. It's the big, like a keel, where the flat bottom of the barge meets the side. And she was making water quite fast. That's really the end of Centaur's story. They got the water out, they got more volunteers to man the pumps, and she made it safely back to Malden and was repaired in Cook's Yard. The end of the story, though, is that her place was taken, being towed over to Dunkirk, by another barge called the Lark, and the Lark had all the water on board and was towed across, came under aerial attack, was ordered not to land on the beach. They put some soldiers on board from smaller boats, and then she turned round and came back to England. Thinking that she was safe, she anchored off Dover. The soldiers disembarked, taken ashore, and then she came under aerial attack and was bombed and sunk in the Dover Strait. So Lark was lost as well. We're lucky to have Centaur. She is a survivor. Pudge's story is a lot longer than Centaur's, because she did get to Dunkirk. It's also more frightening because she did come under attack and we nearly lost her. Like Centaur, she was up at Millwall and about to load grain for Ipswich when she was requisitioned. She was towed down to Tilbury in the first instance, which gave her skipper and mate a chance to provision, get food and water and supplies on board. And then she was towed, like Centaur was, down to Ramsgate and then round to Dover. She went across to Dunkirk empty, just a skipper and her mate, because the essential thing was to get the men off the beach. There wasn't time to load. She was towed by an Admiralty tug, the HMS St Faggan. The captain was Commander Gordon Warren, with the two other barges. One was the Lady Rosebery, one was the Doris, and then Pudge got towed across the North Sea, past the Goodwin Sands, down to the Dunkirk Channel, under cover of darkness. She was about 5 kilometres or 3 miles off the coast of Dunkirk when there were obviously aerial attacks taking place. Lady Rosebery was ordered to tow Doris up to the beach and start rescuing the soldiers. Pudge's engine was a 3-cylinder Kelvin, which took a lot of starting. It used to take at least 5 minutes, possibly longer. Pudge's skipper, Bill Watson, was down below in the engine room. While he was doing that, a dive bomber, a Stuka, flew over the little convoy. The Stuka dive bombed the convoy, and good bit of bombing. It dropped the large bomb, which went down St Faggan's funnel and exploded in the engine room, killing most of the men in the engine room and blowing a big hole in the bottom of the tug. The tug sank in about 5 minutes. Of the crew of 25, 6 survived and were picked up by Pudge. Pudge also picked up the skipper and mate of the other 2 barges. Both the Doris and the Lady Rosebery both sank. And so their crew were rescued and taken on board. There's a sad story attached here. There was a 15-year-old boy serving as third hand on the Lady Rosebery, a chap called John Atkins. When the tug skipper heard that there was a 15-year-old boy on board, he insisted that he come on the tug for safety. It wouldn't be safe on the barge. Sadly, John Atkins was killed, drowned or blown up. He wasn't rescued off either of the barges. He just disappeared, which is sad. You know, I think he was the youngest participant in the Second World War to be killed. The naval destroyer that was in charge of that section of the rescue attempt ordered Pudge, under her own power, to go back to Ramsgate because the explosion of the tug blowing up had sprung some of her planks, so she was making water. And she was only about 5 miles off where the attack had taken place when another small tug called the Tanger was coming back. Tanger was heavily laden. We now know she had 160 French and British soldiers on board, most of them on deck. Because in a tug there aren't any rooms down below, it's just an engine down below and crew's quarters. In the calm weather it was possible to transfer those soldiers onto Pudge, and then the Tanger towed Pudge back into Ramsgate, and that was where the soldiers were unloaded, and Pudge was repaired and she went back into trade up and down the Essex and Suffolk coasts. Pudge is a genuine Dunkirk little ship. She did rescue British and French soldiers from Dunkirk, and she is a survivor. She survived the bombing, she survived the trip back, and she survived, and she's here to tell the tale, and we're very lucky to have her. We're very fond of both our barges.
We were laying in the Surrey docks one day. The mate knew that it was time to get underway. Stormy weather, boys, when the wind blows our barge will go. He's homeward bound but he's out of luck. The skipper's half drunk in the Dog and Duck. Stormy weather, boys, when the wind blows our barge will go. Well, the skipper came aboard with a girl on his arm. He's gonna give the barge in and take a farm. Stormy weather, boys, when the wind blows our barge will go.